Welcome to the Impact Lounge. Feel the sound. Legends in the ring making moves all around. We got the fire, the heart, the stories untold. This is our moment. Watch the magic unfold. Welcome to the Impact Lounge, where we reign. Kings and queens of the ring breaking chains. We taking wrestling to a whole new height. Under bright lights, we ignite the fight. Genesis to rebellion. The crowd still chanting.
What's good, party people? It is your boy BQ. This is your Impact Lounge Impact Wrestling review for January 2nd, 2025. That is the new podcast intro for the lounge. I hope the audio levels aren't too loud. I hope I don't listen back to this and the intro comes and it's like, hopefully that's not the case. Sometimes, introducing audio and stuff to these podcasts can be a little bit difficult. So if that is too loud, too quiet, whatever, I'll make the necessary adjustments. I did a podcast a few days ago, like my predictions for 2025, and I said that when the type of the year typically kicks off, I try to switch things up a little bit. I don't like to completely rebrand, but there's some things you got to do sometimes to freshen up your product. I'll never have this like professional setup behind me because that's just not me, and I don't really care. Like I don't have my Mark Championship belt. If I ever get one of the LA Clipper championship belts that WWE made, maybe I'll hang that up in the back. Who knows? We'll see. So I'm sorry this is coming out on a Monday. I was actually out of town in Los Angeles for the weekend for the Clippers game, checking out the Intuit Dome for the first time. Best arena in sports, tell you that right now. I won't get into it, but it's very technologically advanced. I mean, they do. It's really, really cool. And we got to see a win as well. So, but went to LA Saturday morning and then, got back kind of in the afternoon Sunday, but then we had stuff to do for the family business and stuff since we were out of town. So just could not record yesterday. Was hoping to today, but I had like multiple appointments and things were crazy. But I was hoping, obviously I'm recording today, but I wanted to record this morning, but that wasn't a thing. So apologies, but sometimes I got to take many trips with the wifey, get out of town and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk this episode of Impact. Let's talk about some of these releases first. I don't typically get into news a whole lot anymore, but there was a few people that were removed from the page, what the fuck you call it, the website, whatever, the roster page. I'm tripping on you guys. So there's a few people removed. There was Aiden Prince, Boopy, aka Bhupinder Gujar, Alpha Bravo, Josh Matthews, Rich Swan. Kind of going off the top of my head here. So I put this out on Twitter, but if you didn't see, I did reach out to TNA about this. I didn't get I'm speculating here. It's not like an answer. I didn't get like a really clear answer, but kind of what was implied to me was that some of the people who were just not on-screen characters were just removed. So, Bravo, Josh Matthews, I think that was it. They're not on screen, so they were removed. Aiden Prince, I think he's wrestled like 2 matches for the company. He was injured, and Scott Moore guy. I know he was working off screen in the graphics department. He doesn't do because I asked him about it. He doesn't do the match graphics, but I know he does graphics. He did the logo for Lewis Carlin's Shooting Up North podcast. I'm pretty sure he did Maple Leaf Pro's logo because it looks really similar to Lewis's. So I'm going to assume that's the case. So I don't know if he still works within a company. We already knew Boopy was probably gone. Big Con was one of them. That was another, which, because they really had nothing for the dude. They looked like they were trying to heat him up at the top of the year as the monster of TNA, but he just kept jobbing out to PCO week after week. So Rich Swan, though, this is kind of what I was told about Rich Swan, because there's a lot of like speculation and rumors and assumptions. I should say more than anything, there's just assumptions. Rich Swan is liked at the company. This isn't, I see people on social media saying, oh, how many chances he's going to get this? Like the company doesn't look at him that way. They don't look at him as a hazard. They like him. He got in trouble, not so much for what he did, even though it was kind of weird, but it was not so much for what he did, but because he didn't tell anybody. And he was arrested and didn't say anything. Like that was the bigger issue than the actually what he did. Um, Initially they were going to release him, but there's people within the company who want him, who are pulling for him. They want to have him back. They want to keep him around, but I think his contract expired at the end of the year, so I think it just made sense to not renew it, remove him from the page. But it is not a foregone conclusion that Rich Swann is gone. I'll just put that out there. I don't know if he's going to return to first class or whatever they do if they bring him back, but it's not a foregone conclusion that we're not going to see him again. It was just timing. Contract runs out. He's getting some help. It was just timing. But there's people pushing for him, so we could very well see him back. I hope he returns to first class because I've told you guys many times that this version of first class is bootay. So let's get into this episode. On paper, this episode looked like complete shit. Like when they promoted this on social media, I've told you guys before, every episode we're either going to hear from Joe Hendry, we're going to hear from Mike Santana, we're going to hear from Nick Nemeth. We heard from all of them this episode. So when I was looking at it, when they put the match graphic out, we're going to hear from this I was like, oh, fuck me, dude. Like the episode looked awful. The matches looked awful. This was not a bad episode. Because I'm always pushing for creative and story and stuff like that. So I get kind of bored with a bunch of too many wrestling matches. So I actually kind of enjoyed this. Even though I thought I was going to hate it, I actually kind of liked it. I don't want them to get in the habit of we'll hear from so and so and promote that as a match. They have never, ever done that until AEW started doing it. They started putting their match graphics out, and at the bottom, we hear from MJF, we'll hear from Sting. TNA has never done this until the top of the year. They started doing it with Nick Nemeth. They have that special graphic of his. They started doing it for him, and now they kind of been doing it. And to me, I don't care I don't care like anyone short of like Megan Fox showing up and cutting a promo. Like that's not going to make me tune in. So I kind of hope that they stop doing that. But again, the episode looked like shit on paper, but I actually thought it was okay. This is my problem though. And I kind of feel like I talk about this every single year, maybe not in this exact way. You have to kick off the new year with a bang. Every single new year, I'm like, okay, something's going to be different on this episode. Like it's just going to feel different. There's going to be a new theme. I mean, they beat We Own the Night to death for like 10 years. Every year I'm like, okay, this is it, and here's We Own the Night. They have to find a way to kick off the year with a bang, make the shows feel really important. The problem is they have Genesis right away, and it's like I f- I wish that they didn't have the constraints of having to build a pay-per-view. I wish they could just come in and just give us some badass episode and then kind of build creative off there. And I understand it's a taped episode. I understand it was taped weeks ago. They have to find a way for the first episode of the year to be important, to feel important, to look important. I mean, AEW made all sorts of changes. Not all sorts of changes, but they made some necessary changes just to provide a different vibe for the show. This first Raw, um, is it the first Raw of 2025? Well, yeah, because today's the 6th, so it's got to be. It's tonight. It's at the Intuit Dome where I just was, where my LA Clippers play, and this is going to look really cool on TV. The WWE marks because they have a lot of lights within the Intuit Dome. Every seat has lights on the armrest, so when the Clippers score, lights go out. It's like freaking badass. So they put out some teaser videos online today, and of course the WWE marks that know nothing about real sports or anything think it's some new setup for Raw, fucking goofuses. Um, but there's a lot of the first episode of Raw. Like, so let me rewind here. When I was at the Clipper game, it was WWE night, so the Miz was there. We got like Miz glasses and WWE rally towels and stuff. But yeah, the Miz hyped up the crowd and all that shit. but it was WWE night. They're promoting the shit out of Raw, saying Cody Rhodes gonna be here, and The Miz, and this and this. And it's just like I saw the card for Raw, and it's like they're going all in. You know what I mean? Not all in, but they're giving you a reason to tune in. Like it's a big deal. It's 2025. But with TNA, we get that first episode of the year, and it's just an episode of Impact from the year prior. That's what it feels like. There's no difference to it whatsoever. So last year, 2024 was different because it was the rebrand of TNA, so they had no choice. But you know, that's just something I feel like they have to find a way. It's the first episode of the year. It's got to feel important, and it just doesn't. It never does. It's just like Impact. It's an episode of Impact. That's all that shit is. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of Impact,
TNA Impact. Oh,
let's get into this episode. It kicks off just like it does every week, every year, whatever. Tom Hannafin slow motion highlights. Um, I realized watching this, I usually try to tune it out because it's a very boring few couple of minutes for me. I realized when we don't make fun of Hannafin on this podcast, just so you know, but I realize all these like pre-rehearsed one-liners that he comes up with, so and so beats so and so, dispatch this, and these fucking words and terminology. He's doing that shit for the clips, for the highlight clips. Um, C4 spike, all that bullshit. Like it's for the clips. So it just kind of dawned on me. That's why he just like it's not organic anything he does. It's because they have to chop it up in a highlight. So he is broadcasting in a way that he knows that he could that particular segment or a particular match could be used in a highlight to kick off the show. So that's how he's calling the matches. You know what I mean? It's just like not. It's like if I was doing my YouTube channel, I'm doing my podcast, and I said, okay, I need to create 4 YouTube shorts out of this thing. So I'm gonna have 4 segments throughout my podcast that I'm like really, really watching how I deliver it and watch what I say, and I can't stumble over my words, and it's got to be very, very rehearsed, and I got to talk like this. It's kind of like what he's doing. This kicks off with Joe Hendry.
believe that.
This was putting me to sleep. I enjoy Joe Hendry having fun. I enjoy the music, the songs. I enjoy that kind of stuff. Him just coming out and talking bores the crap out of me. Even the little talking he does before his matches. Like I don't really like hearing him talk. So I was very bored with this. Ryan Nemeth comes out. I'm still kind of bored with it. They're doing what chants? And I've pointed this out once or twice before. The what chants tell you that it is a casual wrestling crowd because a TNA crowd will not do the what chant. Those are WWE fans. So those are like very casual wrestling fans because we've never heard what chants on the show. I shouldn't say never, every once in a while, yes, but we don't hear what chants. We haven't heard them prior to this year where we're getting a lot of, casual fans in there. And the crowd here, I know Hannafin's like, we're sold out. There fucking sounded like 200 people in that place. Like it sounded like one of the more dead episodes in a while. For Impact. I feel like Ryan Nemeth must listen to the podcast because he's calling Joe Hendry a mid-carder, which he fucking is. Which I've explained to you guys. That's just my opinion. I don't want Joe Hendry to be world champion first. I understand he's going to be. I can understand why he is. I don't think it's going to be a good run. I just don't. I don't like him like that. I don't want him to be freaking world champion, but looks like he more than likely is going to be, and we'll see what that's like. So Ryan Nemeth has a match with Rhino later in the evening. Joe Hendry, did I not give Ryan Nemeth his soundbite? My bad.
It should have been me. It should have been me.
So they have a match later in the night. Joe Hendry says, "Who wants to see the match now?" Everyone's, and then the spam beast, the convenience store machine, the Vietnam War machine Rhino immediately comes out.
Tell us about the war. Any one of them.
And you guys know I hate those little convenient, oh, I'm going to call someone out, and then their music plays, and here they are all of a sudden. So Joe Hendry makes matches now. This is the second or third time he's done this year where he just, here's the match. At least Ray Wall was like, hey, he can't do that. But then Hannafin's like, the director of authority, Santino Marella, has, I can't even like picture that in my head. Santino, goofy, like gets in the headphone of Hannafin. He's like, make the match official. It's going to be Ryan Nemeth versus the Rhino. Get the fuck out of here, dude. So we had this match. It was not very good. I thought for sure. I've always said Rhino, win or lose, is going to gore somebody. It's like very played out to me. We didn't see the gore here, did we? We'll see it next week. I can assure you we're going to see it next week. But we got a match. Rhino was pretty much in control of the whole thing. And then Ryan introduces a chair to the match, and then Rhino hits him with it, and it's a disqualification. So of the 3 matches we're getting on this episode, one has disqualification to it. So after this, we're backstage with Gia Miller.
Jesus Christ, that's perfect. Of course you're here right now.
And she's with Jordan. So they began the story here very early on, kind of building up to us knowing that Tessa Blanchard was going to show up. I think they even promoted, we'll hear from Jordan Grace as well, even though it was just that little interview. So there were several segments with Jordan. It in the beginning, before the show kicks off, it shows Jordan and Spitfire and Masha walking to the arena. I'm sure a lot of you thought that was badass, and they thought they looked badass, but I thought it looked kind of silly. It reminded me of the it felt like they were trying to recreate the Magic Johnson meme where he's coming into the arena and he's got this big old wool coat and he's got like Madonna next to him and Michael Jackson and like just the most random entourage of people. And everyone, the meme says this is one of the coldest pictures ever. I feel like that's what they were trying to recreate, but I thought they looked kind of silly walking into the arena together. What do we have after this? The Rascals cutting a promo saying that they want to be the tag team champions.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
Very convenient that about 3 seconds later, the Hardys happen to be there and walk up.
Wonderful. My name is Jeff.
And this starts off, this is the first match of the evening made for Genesis. And it is, there's no story here, nothing. It's just them backstage. Hey, we want to be champions. The champions just so happen to be there. They walk up and say, "Oh, we challenge you." So they challenge the challengers, and that's going to be it. This feels like the 90th match that the Hardys have done since they've returned, where it's like, "Hey, we're wrestling our fans." I mean, it's always, "Oh, we looked up to you growing up." I mean, fucking come up with something different. I swear to God. I predicted that the Hardys would be the champions for all of 2024 or 2025. Excuse me. Who's going to beat them? There's absolutely nobody. It is the Good Brothers all over again, except the Hardys are actually good and the people like them and care about them. So that's going to be the match at Genesis, the Hardys versus the Rascals. Without even knowing this match was coming, I was pretty sure that was the match because what else were the Hardys going to do? You know what I'm saying? This is followed by an X Division showcase.
The limit does not exist.
And this featured Game Changer Kushida.
Probably the greatest free agent signing in the history of professional wrestling.
And Ace Austin.
Is this your card?
Yes, oh my gosh.
It's not, is it?
No,
So good match between these two. You knew who was going to win because Game Changer Kushida is leaving. He's going to be done here pretty soon, I believe. I don't know if that was officially announced or if it was just implied or just assumed, but I don't think he's going to be around going forward. So they had a pretty good match. It was obviously match of the night. I mean, you already knew that looking at the card. It was the only match anyone had any kind of interest in whatsoever. And They had a good match, and I mean, you knew Ace Austin was going to win. So Ace gets the microphone after this. He's completely gassed. He starts cutting a promo, the promo of his life, as a matter of fact. About a month ago, he was doing a promo backstage, talking with Trent. I'll have a number 7, and I remember saying that that's the best Ace Austin promo I've ever heard. Like, this one's the best I've ever heard. And he's getting the people behind him. If it were me booking and I was in creative, which I'm clearly not, I would actually have him go on a losing streak because of where his mind is at with Chris Bay, and then kind of like build him up from there. For me, this is too close to. I mean, they're doing this too quickly, in my opinion. Of he gets on the mic and goes, "I want to be world champion." Conveniently, after he like seconds after he says he's world champion, here comes the X Division champion.
Damn you, Moose.
Moose comes out, and I just think it's too early for Ace to chase the X Division championship, because when he wrestles, he should win it, and it would be a really shit title reign for Moose if he loses at Genesis. But anyway, they've got a promo battle. They're going back and forth. They're both giving us gold. They're in a very good place with this promo. And then guess who the fuck comes out?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Santino. This Santino authority figure has so run its course. When they brought him on, I said, okay, I'm sure this is like a 2 or 3 month thing. You know what I mean? I never thought that a year later we'd still be having this show, this much improved show, which with that has a lot less comedy on it than it did in the past several years. A lot less bad comedy, I should say, because very little comedy in wrestling is actually funny. I never thought Santino would still be in this position. And he comes out and he's hamming it up and being goofy and pretending that he's overwhelmed with emotion. And this was a serious promo. We're bringing up Chris Bay. Ace has given us gold. Moose is giving us gold. This goof comes out with his silliness and makes the match official. And he calls it Genesis. This is that you're actually promoting a pay-per-view here. This isn't it's I wouldn't even do it for a TNA Plus show. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming out mispronouncing shit on purpose. It's not funny. It was funny in WWE because so many more that you're dealing with superstars over there, to where you can say it to John Cena and it comes off, even though it makes no sense, like it comes off funny, but he's doing it to jobbers and mid-carders and shit like that. And it's not funny at all. It does not work. It does not fit the show. And you're actually trying to promote this pay-per-view in like 3 weeks or whatever it is, and you're mispronouncing the name. You know, so one thing I will say is that I talk a lot about a lack of heat in feuds and pay-per-views. There's times I go up and down the card, I'm like, there's no heat here. There's none, you know? And still, maybe something changes next week. The main event still has no heat. When it had no heat at Bound for Glory, and then then Joe Hendry wins, I was like, oh, okay, well now here comes the heat. There's still none. So, maybe that changes next week. I don't really know, but between this, Tessa and Grace and Santana and Mike, Steve Macklin, not Steve Macklin, Santana. I said Mike, but that's his name. Who's Josh Alexander? Sorry. There's heat in these matches. So it's like we're at least going to get, I would imagine we'll get a little bit more heat for at least one more match. So it's kind of like half the card has heat. So that makes me very happy. I've wanted to see that. And it's crazy they did it in one episode. A couple were building up to it, but they managed to get a lot of heat in a very short amount of time. So I think that's pretty cool. So that's going to be the match at Genesis. Tom Hannafin does want you to know that Ace Austin versus Kushida was a first time ever matchup. So just in case And then Ray Wall had to let us know these are two of the best professional wrestlers in the world. This motherfucker says this every fucking match. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Then we have a backstage segment. There's lots of backstage segments, lots of talking in this episode. But again, they were building towards something, so it didn't really bother me all that much. But we had the star of Vinyl Obsession and King of the Rah Rah, Eric Young.
I think those times are like the rah rah speeches and like getting everybody up, because like nobody really get motivated off that stuff anyway.
And he's talking with Steve Macklin. And Jonathan Gresham.
Inky the octopus.
Which I think Jonathan Gresham's on his way out here pretty soon. And with the exception of with Moose and Ace, everything up till this point to me was just like, this episode's really hard to get through. By the end of the episode, I said, hey, this episode wasn't that bad. But at this point, I'm just like, it's just a bunch of talking and nonsense. And they're talking, I don't even know. They were saying God knows what. They were talking about Skittles, M&Ms. I don't even know. I have no idea. The system happens to walk in. And Steve Macklin, I think it was Steve Macklin, just starts hitting him, and they just start fighting for no reason. Like, just these three conveniently just walking in, and then boom, boom, boom. Tom Hannafin, of course, completely no-sells this. Like, oh, well, moving right along, and moves on into the next segment. So I was watching the episode also, though, and I realized that Steve Macklin and Josh Alexander, after having this really good feud, I don't think they ever had a rubber match. Shout out to Zaya Brookside. But I was thinking they were like building towards a last man standing match or something. But what I think is happening is Josh is clearly out of here. Eric Young is clearly going to turn on Steve Macklin. When you hear things like "I trust you," like you hear the word trust, or you hear friend, the word friend or best friend, these are always signs that a turn is coming. It is. I mean, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but it is as guaranteed as it comes when it comes to storylines and wrestling and booking and all that stuff. You hear those words, friend, best friend, trust, someone is turning. Eric Young is clearly turning on this dude. He's most likely, and I think a lot of you guys would agree with me, he is most likely taking over the Northern Armory. And I think from there, he's just going to, I think they're just transitioning the Josh Macklin feud into them. And it's just going to be like a seamless transition. And instead of that rubber match, we're just going to kind of get Eric Young. Shout out Zaya Brookside. We're going to get Eric Young just kind of move into that position. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get that last man standing match or something. Like, if it goes from 0 to 100 as far as like match stipulation, that tells me that Eric Young definitely is moving into the Josh Alexander role. So we'll see if that's what happened. Next up, wrestling, just kidding, talking, Mike Santana.
That's nasty.
And he comes down to the ring, and he's talking about what he always does. And then Josh Alexander's music plays.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
And he is flanked by the Northern Armory.
I'm just a job?
Kid Icarus and the Wizard Walt Williams. So they're going back and forth, and they're doing their promo. And Josh is talking about, you ain't done jack shit, basically. I was this guy. I won this championship. I never lost it. They're, again, just like the Ace Austin Moose thing. Like, they're going back and forth, and it's gold. And Josh Alexander is actually not a bad promo. Just like as a babyface, he was really plain and really boring and really white meat. But he does have some personality. It sucks that we're most likely losing him. It seems like that's the direction it's going. And it sucks because they just put this Northern Armory thing together. I think it could be quite good. That's most likely why I think they'll bring Eric Young in to like kind of keep the thing going. It just makes sense. I would be shocked if that didn't happen. But the promo here back and forth was very good as well. So this is just another match that in a very short amount of time we're getting heat. So I'm all for that. They had a TNA moment of the week, and they played a good 6 or 7 minutes of the Hardy versus DCC versus Decay. Usually, I shit all on these flashbacks. I have good, sorry, I have good memories of these days, these Pop TV days. I made it. I may have even have been at that match. I don't know. It was like Broken Matt and then regular Jeff Hardy. And then the DCC, which was one of the biggest what ifs in the history of this company. And then Decay at the time, who was very cool. And I've apologized to you guys in the past for ever being overcritical about the Pop TV era, because I look back at it very fondly and I really, really enjoyed the episodes. I think I wanted so much for the company. I thought they had the potential to be so much bigger than they were. And I think that kind of caused me to shit on what they were doing a little bit. Like now it's easy. Now I feel like I'm justified to shit on it because I've been covering them for 9, 10 years. They're doing the same shit. They're just now making changes, just now making the improvements that I've been asking for. But back then, I don't even know what I was complaining about. I used to complain about Josh and the Pope on commentary, who I think was a great commentary team. You know, all the things that I talk about with Ray Wall and Hannafin and all these fucks, D'Lo and Striker and just fake fucking pre-rehearsed one-liners. And because Striker did the same thing, D'Lo did the same thing. It's not just Hannafin. Just not natural at all. Where Josh and Pope, I felt they played off each other well, and I felt they were very natural. I thought Josh Matthews the last couple years like sucked real bad, but at that time, I look back at it. Sometimes I'll watch those Pop TV episodes or Destination America, and I'm like, man, he was actually not that bad that time at the time. I think my issue with him also was just because other people had issue with him, and I think I was not forming my own opinion. Now I don't have an issue with that. I say whatever the hell's on my mind, but they played a lot of this match. They filmed like 3 episodes in one day, so they're just wasting time. Even though I think this was a good episode, I'm not optimistic that the next couple will be. It's very difficult to have this like talking heavy show with very, very little wrestling and for it to be good. I might like them a little bit more than you guys, but at the same time, when it's a bunch of talking and it's because we're going to hear from the same people again. It's next week. It's not going to be like, okay, we have 9 talking segments, but it's going to be this guy and this guy and this guy and this girl that we didn't hear. No, we're going to hear from the same people. It's going to be Nick Nemeth. It's going to be Ryan Nemeth probably this time too. It's going to be Jordan. It's going to be I said Nemeth, right? It's gonna be Josh. It's gonna be Mike Santana. It's gonna be same people talking. So I'm not optimistic that these next couple episodes are gonna be any good. I think they're actually gonna be really bad, but we'll see what happens. I just think they, it's for the first episode. I think it came off okay. I just do not feel like the other ones will be very good. But yeah, we got like damn near that whole match, and it was kind of nice to see the 6-sided ring, and the show looked and sounded better. When I say sounded, I mean like the ring, slamming them onto the ring, the poof, it just sounded better. Speaking of noises and I watched a AEW match today. I don't even remember what it was. Powerhouse Hobbs was in it. I know that. Just out of curiosity, wanted to listen to Excalibur, and I was curious because Josh Matthews actually did this a little bit. The like Hannafin does. So I was like, I'm going to listen to Excalibur and his team and see if they do that at all. And they did not a single time. They just called the moves. And if they were having a conversation, Like Raywall will be talking and Hannafin will interrupt him to say, "Oh," or "and a kick out." Like, but he'll actually interrupt them to do this stuff. Where I was noticing like the AEW team wasn't. They were having like natural conversation, and then they would go back to kind of calling the match. But there was none of these sounds, these pirate sounds like Tom Hannafin does. And then Ryan Nemeth is on the table with the doctor. Nick Nemeth walks in, and Rhino. So he's talking, saying, "Rhino hit me with a chair." Blah 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 blah. Rhino very very conveniently walks up because everything is so fucking convenient on this show. And then who the fuck walks up after that?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And he makes a match for next week. And Rhino says, "I believe I can find a partner." And Joe Hendry, I know that's his gimmick, but when everyone, it's Joe Hendry's gimmick, but everybody does it, especially Santino. Right place, right time. You know what I mean? So he walks up, and it's going to be Rhino. What is the match? I think it's a Nemeth brothers versus Rhino and Joe Hendry. So I'm curious for this match, not because Rhino's in it, because this might be where they start building some heat for the main event at Rebellion. Because there's no way they're just doing babyface versus babyface again with "I respect you" and this and this. I think Ryan Nemeth even called him out when they was talking to him about respect or some shit like that. So, yeah. What do we got after this? Jordan Grace sitting backstage. She's just kind of like sitting in a chair, deep in thought. A couple minutes pass. A couple seconds pass. Guess who the fuck walks up?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And he posts security there. One singular man that's supposed to prevent Tessa Blanchard from getting in later. Spoiler alert, that guy ends up flat on his face later in the evening because Tessa Blanchard whooped his ass, just like she would whoop just about any man's ass, I think. So do we get a match after this? No. We have King of the Block Party, Frankie Kazarian.
It's a block party. I'm not playing with y'all, bro.
He's cutting a promo, and I do worry if he has a title run. I'm very worried about his title run. Number one, if he does win it, he's such a beatable champion that it's going to be hard to buy the title reign. And it's just all these people you just know have to be the champion this year. I'm very worried about this main event picture right now. Frankie Kazarian is cutting a promo very conveniently. Leon Slater.
Who?
Leon Slater walks in, and Frankie Kazarian is basically letting him know, I'm willing to take you under my wing. Leon Slater was into it, so I thought, okay, are we going to get like a brief Leon Slater heel type of thing? But then he says, you can start by carrying my trophy. And he said, I'm not your young boy or whatever that terminology is. And he declined. So clearly they're kind of building towards Frankie and Leon Slater, which is kind of weird because this is why I'm saying Frankie's a beatable champion, because if they feud, he's probably going to lose. Like, are you building Leon Slater or are you building him or are you building Frankie as your eventual champion? I think that they're going to make Frankie lose a bunch of matches like they do with the Money in the Bank winner a bunch of times before he ultimately cashes in. This episode is kind of hard to review because it's hard to keep track of how much talking was on this episode. And probably the reason I like this so much is because with only 3 matches, there was very minimals and a kick out and and all that shit that Tom Hannafin does. And then randomly, how many random people are just going to walk up? It's JDC.
These are spirit fingers, and these are gold.
And I don't know if he's going to factor into this because they did have a match at maybe Final Resolution on the pre-show, Turning Point, something like that. We'll see how he factors into this, but at least we're getting Leon Slater on TV, who we do like. And then wrestling next, I'm just kidding, is we're getting talking from Nick Nemeth.
I've been talking to people walking here. We've been talking about next year, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to be here.
And it was pretty unnecessary. He's cutting the same promo he always does, that he steals the show every damn time. He's a fighting champion. It's the same shit. But Ryan Nemeth comes out, and at this point, Ryan Nemeth has been on the show a few times, and he is starting to establish himself as a whiny, annoying heel. And I'm curious how it's going to factor into, because I think there's still just one more bit of the story between Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth. Like there's one more page, two more pages to turn, and there's just something sitting there over the next couple weeks that's going to build this into some kind of fireball of heat. I have to believe it, and I think Ryan Nemeth is part of unlocking that. Whether he gets Nick on his side or help, or he cheats. Maybe these guys cheat, but Nick doesn't like that he cheats. I don't know. I think that there's a possibility that once Nick drops the title, that him and Ryan may have a quick feud before Nick is probably out of here. I think past Rebellion. I doubt we're going to see him again past Rebellion, but maybe we do. I don't know. What do we have after this? So I'm going through my notes, and it's just like my notes are written so weird because I usually have matches written in there, and it helps me to stay kind of organized. But it's just all these damn fucking talking segments, and they are trying to get over this brother thing or big brother. Like they were beating that to death. It was actually funny that Nick Nemeth actually brought up. He actually referenced Santino always being there at the right place, right time.
Oh, and I kick out.
Main event. We finally get another match on this show. Knockouts action. Matt Raywall.
Hey, man. I really appreciate that Patrick Price on my insurance, Jake from State Farm.
Lets us know that these are 8 of the best professional wrestlers in the world. Said in the opening match. He said it here. He says it almost every single match. Everyone's gimmick cannot be, I'm the best wrestler. I'm a good wrestler. Like when Kurt Angle was wrestling, whether it was TNA, whether it's WWE, he was that gimmick of like, I'm the best wrestler in the world. I'm one of the best wrestlers. CM Punk, I'm the best in the world. Jericho, best in the world at what I do. There's some people who use that as their gimmick and it works, but they're the only ones, you know, like with Ray Wall saying it all the time, and everyone, Nemeth and Santana and all these, Joe Hendry saying this fucking shit all the time. Everyone's the best to lace up a pair of boots and best in the world, best tag team in the world, and all this shit, man. Shout out Matt Raywall though for saying it every single fucking match. But this was a Knockouts main event. Ash by Elegance.
Come on, Teddy. Come on, Teddy.
Heather by Elegance.
He has an erection.
Yeah. It's all her fault.
They come down to the ring with the personal concierge.
That's my dad. But don't worry, he's cool.
Really? He doesn't look cool.
And their partners, Tasha Steelz.
We got a badass over here.
And Rosemary.
What's that? Is that Rosemary? Think? What the hell is she doing?
Their opponents, Jordan Grace. The Knockouts world champion, Masha Slamovich.
Meet Fran Stalinaskevich.
The tag team of the year, the champions, Spitfire.
Tell me right now that I'm just a job. Tell me to my face.
You're just a job.
I thought this match lagged a little bit. It was fine, you know, like I like watching the Knockouts matches. But it kind of lagged, and we knew that we were getting somewhere with this, right? So Masha gets the pin. Ultimately, I think she hit that pile driver on Tasha Steelz. So I was pretty sure if we're deciding where the finish is going to be, that it's most likely going to be champion pinning the one girl feuding with nobody. That just seemed kind of common sense. The match was fine. I thought it dragged a little bit. I'm just kind of like, okay, let's get to the end, because I can see on my little ticker here at the bottom of the screen that there's a little bit of time left to go. So there's going to be something after this match. We're already knowing Tessa's going to show up. The security guard is dead backstage. So these girls, they're winning, celebrating in the ring, and then we finally get Tessa Blanchard.
Oh, I don't like this. That if the Nuggets don't win this.
So she comes in, she starts jumping Jordan Grace, and then the other girls get in the ring, Ash and Heather. So they jump Spitfire and all that. So it's kind of like you already knew they were working towards a match. Telegraph and Tom during the match was like, I wonder what it would be like to have a 2-on-2 tag team match with Spitfire and Heather and Ash by Elegance. He also now calls them Elegance like it's their last name, by the way. So, like, Telegraph and Tom is already letting us know in the very beginning here that that's going to be a thing. We knew it was. I mean, who else? Who else is going to wrestle for these damn titles? Like, it's very, very obvious that's where they're going. So, they use the word melee twice during this match. They are the only people that use that word. But Tessa takes Jordan backstage and she's just beating the piss out of her. And I mean, building some real heat. Jordan, she has attacked Jordan Grace twice. Jordan Grace has not laid a finger on her. And we really need like more of that in wrestling. You know, like for this company that loves for their baby faces to get comeuppance, you know, the heels are just not dominant at any point in these feuds. And I kept using PCO as an example recently where he has this like feud with what's his name? Matt Cardona. There's no heat whatsoever. He's whooping Matt's ass every single week. And then we get a monster's ball at the end of it. Like, why? Like he's already whooped the dude's ass. Santana already whooped the system's ass. And they did that shit again this episode where he gone through every member of the system. And he's really pissing me off with that. Shout out Tom Hannafin. So I guess next week they're going to do some kind of gauntlet, by the way, of Santana running through Sinner and Saint, and then probably a no contest with Josh Alexander. Anyway, I'm only bringing that up because I forgot to say it earlier. They're building some really, really good heat with Tessa and Jordan here. This is good. This is something to like tune in for. I'm very excited about the match. I really, really want to see it. These are two girls who are so good that I mean they're going to put on a killer match. We know Tessa Blanchard is going to win, and she's going to run through this division. You know, she's gonna whoop ass on Zaya Brookside, Queen of the Rubber match, and Jobby Threat and Danny Luza. She's gonna whip a lot of ass. But in the process of this whole thing, they were able to kind of build that knockouts tag team match with Heather and Ash at the end of the evening. So again, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. It was definitely difficult to review. I'm not used to having to review so much talking because I don't always pay a lot of attention to the talking. Like I kind of get the gist of it, and then I'm like, okay, because they very rarely say anything important. There was actually some good promos here, and I was like, I probably needed to listen to some, but I've just been trained not to. I've been trained not to care for the little Gia Millers backstage and all that stuff. But we will see what they do next week. I in my heart of hearts do not expect the next couple episodes to be good. I think they were able to throw everything into this one and make it good, make us care. I just don't think going forward. I don't think we're going to see the Hardys. You know, the thing that they did with the Rascals was clearly pre-taped that final resolution. You know, I don't think we're going to see them on screen. That's why they had to build it. That's why they had to build a match backstage of like, okay, well, we challenge you. Okay, cool. See you at Genesis because the Hardys are going to be there to build anything. So we'll see. We'll see if these episodes are any good. I am your boy BQ though. Thanks for checking me out, and we will talk again soon, guys. Peace.